Today, scientists have high-tech tools and methods for research. Many mysterious discoveries and objects are carefully hidden from the public, but this information eventually becomes available to everyone. In this video, I will introduce you to what scientists have been trying to hide from the Earth's population. Enjoy watching. Thanks to the confession of a CIA and NSA agent, Edward Snowden, the world learned in 2014 that the U.S. National Security Agency had developed and implemented a program for collecting metadata and eavesdropping on phone conversations. This top-secret program was named Mystic. Mystic was first used in 2009. Over 2 years, it allowed national security agents to store phone conversations of residents from 5 countries for a month. The list included Mexico, the Philippines, Kenya, the Bahamas, and one unidentified country, which experts believe to be Iran. Just imagine the volume of data used for these purposes. Despite the illegal wiretapping of phone calls, the U.S. government claimed that this project helped prevent several terrorist attacks and apprehend drug traffickers. However, such an operation was not entirely legal and could violate the rights of ordinary civilians. In Alaska, there is a complex of scientific instruments known as HAARP. According to official data, it allows scientists to send and receive signals from the ionosphere. However, conspiracy theorists believe that this complex is actually intended for the development of weather manipulation weapons. Supporters of pseudoscience explain their theory by the fact that strong hurricanes often occur around HAARP, which could indicate tests of weather manipulation weapons. Moreover, conspiracy theorists argue that the complex is strategically located in a remote part of Alaska for a reason. It's difficult to find the truth in this dispute. However, the construction of HAARP indicates that scientists are indeed just conducting ionosphere research. The complex houses 180 installations, each being a phased array antenna consisting of 2 crossed dipoles. With these, scientists can not only receive radio waves as a whole, but also emit them in a narrow beam. However, it's unlikely that these devices could help them create natural disasters. The Great Pyramids of Giza have long remained a mysterious object not only for us but also for scientists. Why were they built, and most importantly, by whom? It remains a mystery to this day. According to one pseudoscientific theory, they were built by aliens and used as power plants. This hypothesis was even supported by Nikola Tesla, for whom the Egyptian pyramids were a receiver of energy from space. According to this view, the pyramids are secretly still used to recharge the spacecraft of aliens visiting our planet for reconnaissance purposes. As the mystery of the pyramids construction remains unsolved, scientists can only speculate about their true purpose. Who knows? Maybe this time the ufologists were right in their guesses. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, located near Greene and Montgomery counties in Ohio, boasts a long and progressive history of development, from the Wright brothers to space exploration tests. However, it gained the most fame after news of its purpose as a secret repository for alien remains. Following the Roswell incident, where an unidentified flying object was found near a farm, media leaks suggested that the real UFO was placed in Hangar 18 at Wright-Patterson Base. This was no coincidence. The airbase had long served as a laboratory for UFO research. Officially, this project was suspended in 1969. However, even after that, there were reports that the military continued to observe unexplained phenomena. This fact was confirmed by multiple letters from the former chairman of the U.S. Intelligence Committee, sent to astronomers and other scientists. In them, he asked for clarification on what was in the base's secret hangars and why even he did not have access to this information. He suspected that, in fact, many pieces of evidence of extraterrestrial civilizations were stored there. Whether his assumptions were true remains unknown, but it's intriguing to consider what secrets were hidden at Wright-Patterson if even the chairman of the Intelligence Committee was denied access. During World War I, the territory in the northeast of France suffered the most. At least 300,000 soldiers died in fierce battles there. However, the real reason this place was called the Red Zone, or Zone Rouge, was not the death toll but the use of banned poisonous substances like chlorine, phosgene, and others. As a result of these military actions, about 120,000 hectares of land, which is more than 7% of the country's total territory, remain uninhabitable to this day. Before the war, these lands were agricultural fields and villages, but people had to be urgently evacuated as toxins and heavy metals poisoned the area for hundreds of years. Moreover, hundreds of unexploded shells and grenades were found here. Now, the red zone is gradually decreasing in size. However, sappers still have a long task ahead in searching for and neutralizing unexploded ordnance. Experts believe that this territory could become habitable again in at least 300 years. I believe that the government of every country has its own secret bunker, where they can store important documents or hide from potential dangers. In the USA, such a bunker is called Mount Weather. It is located near the village of Bluemont in Virginia. Its area is no less than 176 hectares. In the late 19th century, this territory housed a meteorological station. During World War II, it began to be used as a facility for civil public service. The construction of the modern facility for the protection of high-ranking officials started in 1959. Mount Weather remained secret for a long time, but local residents suspected the presence of an important facility due to its protection by barbed wire and a security post. These suspicions were confirmed by an investigation conducted by journalist Bill Lichtenstein in 1983. He confirmed that the complex was intended for the evacuation of the U.S. government in case of a nuclear war. Of course, Mount Weather is not the only place for the elite's salvation. Although almost all such bunkers have been declassified, they are still designed in such a way that the authorities will be safe during a nuclear disaster. Fort Detrick, located in Frederick, Maryland, is now known as a leading laboratory for developing defenses against viruses. However, few are aware that in the mid-20th century, monstrous human experiments were conducted at this site. In 1942, the U.S. authorities were alarmed by news of Japan's bacteriological warfare against China. They decided to initiate a program for the development of biological weapons, led by biochemist Ira Baldwin from the University of Wisconsin. Baldwin chose an abandoned National Guard base called Fort Detrick as the laboratory for his research. After the war ended, Fort Detrick was temporarily forgotten since the U.S. had nuclear weapons, and the development of biological weapons was deprioritized. However, with the onset of the Cold War, Fort Detrick was assigned a new mission. The authorities planned to develop and implement methods of controlling the minds of foreign leaders. The secret program was named MK Ultra. Of course, developing such methods required numerous experiments, all conducted on living people without their consent. LSD was used as the primary tool. People were literally pumped with this drug, and then various experiments were conducted. All information about this program was highly classified, and most documents were destroyed, but some were eventually disclosed. Thus, the public learned that Fort Detrick served as a laboratory for human experiments. Now, work on developing virus protection is being carried out on the base's premises, but no one knows how these tests are conducted. Located in France, the Gouffre Berger cave is considered one of the most dangerous caves in the world. It was discovered in 1953 by explorer Joseph Berger, after whom it is named. The cave is known for the depth of its shafts. Scientists have managed to reach a depth of 1323 meters, but they believe this is far from the limit. The structure of the cave is very complex. To ascend from its deepest shaft to the surface, scientists need no less than 15 hours. Furthermore, the cave often experiences floods, which have led to the deaths of 5 explorers. Predicting when and where floods will occur is nearly impossible, which is why this place is often referred to as the Killer Cave. Gouffre Berger Cave has 9 entrances, which are vertical shafts with an average depth of 300 meters. For this reason, only experienced professionals with special equipment are allowed to descend into the shafts. Tourists are instead invited to simply take a walk around the scenic areas near the Killer Cave. Recently, satellite images taken from space have emerged online, showcasing a naval base located underwater near the island of Hainan in China. This base, known as Yulin, is one of the most important strategic assets in the region. It is the home base for China's nuclear ballistic missile submarine fleet. The photograph captured the moment one of the submarines was entering an underwater cave system. The name of the submarine is unknown, but experts believe it to be one of the Type 093 Shang class submarines. These These nuclear-powered submarines are assumed to be equipped with vertical missile launch systems. The first submarine of this type was launched in 2007, and their production continues to this day. As seen in the image, the other docks were empty. It is possible that the other submarines were either participating in military exercises at the time or hidden within the underwater caves. In the Red Sea near the Egyptian city of Dahab lies one of the most dangerous and beautiful places in the world, the underwater cave known as the Blue Hole. The depth of the cave is 150 meters, but this does not deter extreme divers. On the contrary, it attracts them. They all come to Dahab to test their mettle and swim under the arch located at a depth of 50 meters, and then emerge into the open sea. Such depth requires extensive diving experience and special diving equipment, but unfortunately, not everyone realizes this. When diving with regular tanks, amateur divers feel weakness, sluggishness, and confusion. They lose their spatial orientation and fail to surface in time, or even fall asleep underwater. The bottom of the Blue Hole is littered with the bodies of many deceased divers, earning it the nickname Divers' Cemetery. On the shore, there are numerous plaques with the names of those who have met their demise here. The bodies of some have been raised from the bottom at the request of relatives, but others continue to rest in this underwater cave. At least about 100 people have died here, including experienced divers. This place is indeed very dangerous, although the desire to admire the underwater depths with their inhabitants and test one's luck for some divers proves stronger than the fear of death. In the Pacific Ocean, along the eastern slopes of Tonga and Kermadec, lies one of the deepest places on our planet, the Tonga Trench. It stretches for 860 kilometers, with a width of 80 kilometers at the contour line on geographic maps, and its maximum depth reaches 10,882 meters. It is noteworthy that this point is the record holder for depth in the world ocean of the southern hemisphere. Due to its inaccessibility, the waters of the trench remain little explored. However, researchers have managed to establish that this territory is rich in biodiversity. Despite the monstrous pressure at the depth of the trench, some ocean inhabitants have adapted to such extreme conditions. Another feature of this area is the record high speed of tectonic plate movement. Normally, plates move at a speed of 1 to 2 centimeters per year, but in the Tonga Trench, this value is 25 centimeters per year. The Tonga area also hosts the world's longest chain of underwater mountains, the Louisville Ridge, which stretches for 4,300 kilometers. The Valley of Death, a place with such a menacing name, is located in Russia, on the Kamchatka Peninsula, specifically in the Kranatsky Nature Reserve. Russia impresses with its size and is the largest country in the world, but it is home to only one of the most dangerous mountainous areas. Anomalies in this area were first noticed in the 1930s. At that time, a group of hunters went in search of their dogs. When the men reached the place now called the Valley of Death, they discovered a large number of animal corpses, among which were the undecomposed remains of their pets. These hunters reported that the closer they got to the valley, the more they felt mountain sickness, although the altitude in this area is not extreme. Moreover, such symptoms persisted for several days. Scientists became interested in this anomaly. After a detailed study, they concluded that all the animals that died in this area did not suffer any physical injuries. They all seemed to have fallen asleep upon arriving here. Of course, all this attracted scientific attention, and extensive research of the territory and the remains found on it began. Experts concluded that the cause of the animal's death was carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide emanating from the Kikpanich volcano. During their demise, the animals literally fell into a deadly sleep. In the municipality of Tultepec in Mexico City, archaeologists discovered a real mammoth graveyard. The remains belonged to at least 200 of these animals. All the bones were found in a huge pit. Scientists believe it was used as a trap for mammoths. The presence of spear tips found near the remains indicated that ancient humans hunted these large animals. How exactly humans hunted mammoths remains unclear. However, based on the excavation results, it can be said that they typically used 3 methods for this purpose. The first was direct hunting, the second was the construction of trapping pits, and the third was driving the animals into swamps. However, since mammoths were very large animals capable of surviving arrow wounds, ancient hunters concluded that deep trap pits were a much more effective hunting method. Falling into such a pit, a massive beast would sustain serious injuries and become vulnerable. Although this hunting method may seem quite cruel, it's worth noting that ancient hunters did not have easily accessible means of obtaining food, so trapping pits became their most available option to feed themselves and their families. Amazons have long been considered legendary characters, powerful and fearless warriors of captivating beauty. They were ready to fight any man and invariably emerge victorious. It is known that legends were passed down from generation to generation, and it is quite possible that they contained some real historical events. This is exactly what one of the researchers' discoveries proves. Russian archaeologists studying burial mounds in the Voronezh region discovered a burial site. It contained human remains and ancient artifacts. After laboratory research, scientists determined that they date back to the 4th century BCE, but the age of the find was not the most interesting part. All the discovered remains belonged to females. The first girl was about 13 years old at the time of death, the second between 20 and 25, the third between 25 and 30, and the last remains belonged to a woman aged 45, 50. Among the artifacts found in the burial site were 30 iron arrowheads, fragments of horse harnesses, clay pottery, knives, spears, and animal remains. On the skull of the eldest woman was a gold headdress called a kalaf. Similar head ornaments had already been found by archaeologists in the territory of Scythian burial mounds. This discovery effectively proves the existence of Amazons in reality, not just in legends. 64.5 light-years from our Earth, in the constellation Vulpecula, lies an exoplanet named HD 189733 AB. It is a bright blue gas giant, slightly larger and more massive than Jupiter. This exoplanet is known as one of the hottest, as it is 30 times closer to its star, around which it orbits, than Earth is to the Sun. For this reason, it falls into the category of hot Jupiters, gas giants that are very close to their system's central star. The temperature on the bright side of this exoplanet averages 930 degrees Celsius and 425 degrees Celsius on the dark side. Of course, life there is impossible, but such temperature is not the only reason for this. From afar, this exoplanet appears similar to our own, but its blue hue is not due to water, but rather silicates contained in its atmosphere. Winds, made up of such particles, blow at a speed of 8,700 kilometers per h. Due to such air temperatures and wind speeds, the exoplanet experiences glass rain. The speed of these glass drops reaches 6,500 kilometers per h. In comparison, large raindrops fall on Earth at a speed of 32 kilometers per h. Although this exoplanet seems similar to our planet, its appearance is deceptive, and life on it is impossible. All our matter consists of the tiniest particles, which in turn are made up of even smaller ones. Until 1897, the atom was considered the smallest particle. But then science took a step forward, and scientists were able to find out that the atom also has the property of divisibility. After this discovery, the world learned about electrons, protons, and neutrons. Research on elementary particles in the 1960s led scientists to discover a new type of particles. As is known, an atom consists of a nucleus and electrons. The nucleus, in turn, is formed by protons and neutrons, otherwise known as nucleons. During their study, it became clear that they consist of 3 smaller particles, which were named quarks. Quarks are structureless elementary particles and fundamental components of any matter. When they come together, composite particles, hadrons, are formed. Each hadron is made up of a different number of quarks. For example, the well-known protons and neutrons consist of 3 quarks with different quantum numbers and are therefore classified as baryons. To prevent quarks from scattering and to keep them together, they are aided by a gluon, or an elementary massless particle. It continuously bounces between quarks, changing their quantum numbers so that they always remain different, thereby forming composite particles. This process is called the strong nuclear force and is one of the 4 fundamental forces of the universe. All this might seem complicated, but this information is sufficient to understand how complex and balanced the system forming any matter in the universe is. Sometimes the experiments of scientists can shock the public. Here is one of the most striking examples of such experiments. An international team of researchers began working on creating a human-pig hybrid. For this purpose, human stem cells were introduced into an animal embryo. Out of 2,000 such embryos, 186 were able to continue developing inside the sows. Thus, scientists managed to create chimeras. In mythology, a chimera was called a fire-breathing monster with the head and neck of a lion, the body of a goat, and a tail in the form of a snake. In medicine, however, chimerism refers to the combination of two different sets of DNA in one body. The artificially created embryos contained 99% pig cells and only 1% human cells, yet they functioned as a whole. These experiments may seem monstrous, but scientists explain that their goal is to create new ways of growing donors for transplantation. Moreover, the created chimeras will help in conducting safe trials of new drugs. Today, heart-shaped boxes are given as gifts containing jewelry, sweets, and other presents to demonstrate warm feelings. However, it turns out that in the past, such boxes were used to hold actual human hearts. During excavations in the German city of Rennes, archaeologists discovered 5 unique heart-shaped burial urns. It was later found that they contained the hearts of the deceased. Scientists were very interested in this find and began to study it in detail. Analysis showed that the urns were made about 400 years ago. 1 heart belonged to a healthy individual, 3 to people with cardiovascular diseases, and the last was too poorly preserved to determine. Interestingly, the urn with the heart of the healthy individual was buried near the remains believed to belong to this person's wife. The tradition of burying hearts separately from the body was popular in the Middle Ages. For example, the hearts of members of the Habsburg dynasty were placed in silver boxes in the heart crypt. This practice was also used in France, where the hearts of deceased crusaders were brought home in special urns. Water is a necessary element for life on a planet, but did you know that it can also be found in space? California astronomers made a sensational discovery, a massive reservoir of water located around a black hole. The discovered quasar is 12 billion light-years from our planet. Its mass exceeds that of the Sun by 20 billion times. To date, it is the most powerful source of energy in the universe among those ever found. The immense luminosity arises due to the absorption of matter surrounding this black hole. Around the quasar is a giant reservoir of water, formed by the collision of hydrogen and oxygen atoms under the influence of the incredibly powerful energy of the black hole. This water is in the form of a thin vapor. The formed cloud is so large that it contains about 140 trillion times more water than our planet. This discovery is unique because it once again proves the presence of water reserves in the universe, not only on planets. Climate change has significantly affected the lives of many animals, including bears. As a result of warming, grizzly bears began to explore new territories. Some of them moved to areas inhabited by polar bears. It was previously thought that these two species avoided each other and did not make any contacts, although they are genetically similar and sometimes found in the same territory. However, in 2006, a hybrid of a polar bear and a grizzly was discovered in Canada. This individual had light fur with brown spots and the physique of a grizzly bear. Interestingly, such hybrids have been known in captivity for a long time, where they are called pisleys or growlers, but such individuals had not been previously found in the wild. Scientists are now increasingly encountering hybrids living in Arctic lands. Perhaps one day, as a result of regular interbreeding between polar bears and grizzlies, a new species will emerge, but it is still too early to claim this for certain. Sometimes archaeologists manage to find what seems simply impossible. One such discovery was a preserved human brain, which is about 2,600 years old. During excavations in 2009, researchers from the York Archaeological Trust discovered a human skull in the vicinity of Heslington, Yorkshire. No other remains were found in this area. When the find was brought to the laboratory for examination, scientists noticed that there was something inside the skull. Just imagine how shocked they were when they realized it was a brain. Usually, after a person's death, their soft tissues undergo natural processes, and over time only bones remain. Therefore, a skull with a preserved brain inside, 2,600 years old, is unique. After scientists managed to find out that the skull belonged to a man who died a violent death at the age of 30 to 45 years, they began to look for reasons why his brain was preserved to this day. Eventually, they suggested that the man's head head was severed from the body and thrown into a pit with mud. Most likely, this environment provided anoxic, airtight conditions. The flesh of the man's head and his hair decayed, while the brain simply shrank in size, maintaining its typical shape and many microscopic features. And that's all for now. If you liked this video, don't forget to rate it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon. Your activity is the best reward for me. Thank you for your attention.